For more on this conversation, we're now joined by RAF CEO Letsoalo, who's in studio. Collins, thanks so much for making time for us. Now, speak to us about the summary of the changes, the proposed changes that the public has been offered the opportunity to react to. I mean, certainly some of the stuff that we've picked up in the media suggests that there's been an absolute outcry. Why the changes?
Well, good afternoon to you and the viewers at home. I think people are just being alarmist. The people that are going to complain the most are lawyers. I don't think, when you say people, and we had a situation where we raised all these issues, the people know how lawyers have been fleecing claimants of this fund, a lot of money, and they want to continue to do it. That's why the uproar. The reality is that this is in the best interest of the claimant. This year is the year of the claimant. We're empowering claimants to ensure that they know what their rights are, which lawyers never actually told them in the past. It's a very interesting phenomenon. I've just listened to this clip. She says vehicle damages. Very clearly, she doesn't even know what she's talking about. The RAF does not cover any vehicle damages, so we don't know what she's talking about. So it's very clear that people don't listen to people like her. They read for themselves and they listen to what the Road Accident Fund will be saying in the Department of Transport.
So what are the significant changes, those changes that you speak of that say will benefit the claimant? And how does that circumvent the lawyers that you speak of?
Well, we are trying to remove what we call the middleman, which is the lawyer in this case. Section 19C, Roman figure 1 of the Road Accident Fund says that you can only claim if you yourself come or you use a lawyer. That simply means that even if you wanted to help one of your relatives, you won't be able to do that as a person. We are saying, why should a lawyer come into a social benefit scheme?
But why not? Because, Collins, if it's in your best interest. I mean, at the moment, you're in a lot of financial trouble, so it makes sense for you not to want to pay out, right? Now, if I seek representation, never mind what happens beyond the representation, but just the process of engaging a lawyer is somebody who understands the law. Now, I'm an ordinary civilian, right? I do not understand the law. I have been involved in an accident, and I come and I make a claim, right? You can deny me my constitutional rights, and because I'm not a lawyer, right, I may lose out. So surely the use of a lawyer is critical in protecting my interests.
Definitely not. Firstly, the lawyer will take 25% of whatever you're going to get from us. So I don't know whether that is in your best interest. That's the first part. Secondly is that in the wild world, why would you have a social benefit scheme that would need a lawyer to claim from? Where in the world does it happen? Only in South Africa and only RAF. Because if you go to, for instance, workmen's compensation, it's also a social benefit scheme. You don't need a lawyer. You go to SASA, you don't need a lawyer. So why would our people need a lawyer to go through this? The aim of the initial, this current act as it sits, it needs you to use a lawyer because it's complex. We are saying we are simplifying it. We don't want it to be as complex, and we want you to claim directly without actually the need for a lawyer. So we are simplifying the processes to allow our people to be accessible, which is why we are even opening up. We've got about a 300-seat call center that tomorrow the minister will be launching, because this is the year of the claimant. We are saying claimants must come, claimant must know. What lawyers do, for instance, they would get the right to represent you, and they would actually stop you from actually contacting the RAF, which is a very difficult thing to deal with if I'm dealing with a claimant who does not even know how far the claim is.
I listened to you speak to one of my colleagues a few days ago, and part of that conversation was around how many claims there are since you took over and where you are at the moment. And if I'm not mistaken, they're in the hundreds of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands, no.
What number of claims do you have that are outstanding at the moment?
There were 300,000 when I took over.
Yes.
There are now 137,000.
That's hundreds of thousands.
No, that's hundreds of thousands. That's only 100,000.
It's 137,000.
Yes.
More than 100,000.
Yes.
Now, let's talk about capacity. You're sitting on 137,000 claims. So potentially, if there are, I'd imagine that the fact that lawyers would represent multiple people would lessen the burden. Do you have capacity to deal with claimants?
How would the use of a lawyer lessen the burden? It doesn't. It actually increases the burden because they want to go to court, they want to raise summons, and those summons must be defended in court, which is totally different from someone who's coming through the door and giving us a claim. We look at the claim, we assess whether you need that money or not, and be able to pay you out. So how would a use of a lawyer?
So who defends me? So who defends me then if I don't have a lawyer, right? Yeah. If I disagree, because obviously the lawyers are saying you pay me 20,000, right? And the lawyer's saying no, you deserve more. And I imagine some of those lawyers have won those cases.
How would you know that? Because I don't know about them winning cases. The issue is very simple, is that you come, we assess you. If you then disagree with us, then that you can use a lawyer. There's no one who's stopping you at any process. Within the process, you are still allowed to go and get a lawyer. We are saying, come to us. If you are unsatisfied about what we are giving you, of course you can go and use a lawyer. But it can't be that when you approach us, you actually need the use of a lawyer. For what good reason? So that they can take 25%. Let's just imagine that we want to give you $1 million, and $1 million is what satisfies you. If you use a lawyer, you will then have to take 250,000 and give it to that lawyer unnecessarily.
Is it currently mandatory to use a lawyer?
Yes, in a way. Because it says that if you don't, then you issue summons. If you don't come through our door on your own, it says, Section 19C says, you must use a lawyer to come. You can't even use your own child. My own mother, if she wants to claim, she must use a lawyer. Even if I know how the scheme works, as long as I'm not a lawyer, I'm not allowed to claim using my own for my own mother. So that's what we are saying. We are saying simplify this process so that the people that are beneficiaries must be the ones that benefit the most. And they are telling you about, no, it will take a longer time. They say you will be paid yearly. No, we are saying monthly. As you would have got your salary monthly, you lose your earnings monthly. We are saying we will then replace those earnings monthly towards the end of your work life. For instance, if you are retiring at 65, you injured at 40, at this point, you will get 20 million or whatever the amount you are going to get, and that amount would be paid now. You will get all that money now. You then go and blow this money, like we have seen a lot of people blowing this money, then you come back to the state for social benefits again. That's unfair to other people. What we want to see is a situation where this is replaced over time. And if you start working, of course you don't need that money anymore. That's the intervention that we're talking about.
Fair enough. Now, let's talk about the medical aid societies, because they've come in a big way, castigating these new changes. What is that bone that they're chewing with the RAF?
A simple thing. The Medical Schemes Act, I think it's Section 2910, refers to what is called prescribed minimum benefits. Then you go to Regulation 7, which defines what those prescribed minimum benefits are and emergency medical conditions. And it says in Regulation 8 that they must be paid in full without deductibles or any co-payments. Now the medical aids, what they've been doing, they've been saying to people, once they pay that, they come, you were involved in an accident, they say to you, go and claim from the Road Accident Fund a social benefit. Once you receive that, pay it over to us. I'm saying it's a very simple thing. They don't have reimbursement rights, so far as we are concerned. And I think the court is agreeing with us. If you saw the outcome of the court case of the 22nd of September by Judge Kumal, is very clear about the fact that medical aids do not have a right to claim compensation from us. The claim still sits with the claimants. If they have past medical expenses that have been paid for in terms of prescribed minimum benefits, there's no loss, there's no damage, and therefore they can't claim from the from the Road Accident Fund. So that's all we are saying. We are saying medical aids must adhere to their liabilities as per the Medical Schemes Act and its regulations.
I'd like you to react to something, and this is written by Dr. Chris Hunsinger, MP, DA Shadow Minister of Transport. And he says, the Road Accident Fund, RAF, is in disarray, leaving the victims of road accidents to fend for themselves. Yeah. He says, I paraphrase, the RAF has been run into the ground, as confirmed by the joint memorandum letter addressed to Parliament. He also says that the core of these grievances is the appointment of Collins, Letsoalo, yourself, as CEO of the RAF, a position that requires substantial knowledge of litigation processes and the South African legal framework. Letsoalo, by his own admission, possesses only a basic understanding of these critical areas. How do you react to that?
If I did not know, I would think Chris actually represents the lawyers himself, because he's talking about a joint memoranda. We have just got our Auditor General's report. We have performed at 91.3%. I don't understand an organization in disarray that performs at 91.3%. You look at the Auditor General, they said, well, you have improved from an audit perspective. The whole audit has improved. And we are saying to them, what is the objective test on which you use what is in disarray and what is not in disarray? When I arrived at the Road Accident Fund, the short-term debt was sitting at 17.6 billion. We are sitting at 9.6 billion. As I say, the backlog was 300,000. More than 300,000, we are sitting at 137,000. Confirm that, Auditor General. So I'm not going to listen to people who are representing interests. So he is clearly in the, or whatever, the lawyers have lobbied him. He's a lobby group. The reality is this. You are not going to find a claimant that blames the RAF for all these things. Every day we meet people that have been, monies that have been siphoned by these lawyers. What is he saying?
You're watching News Feed. This is the PM edition. I'm Hugo Ribatika. Thank you for joining us. If you have just tuned in, I'm in conversation with Collins Letsoalo, RAF Chief Executive Officer. And we pick up the conversation where we left off a few minutes ago. Now, I want to talk about the joint memorandum from various legal entities outlining concerns about changes in directives and requirements for lodging new claims. How do you plan to address these concerns and ensure that they do not negatively impact road accident victims and the medical scheme industry?
Well, what are those? You will see about 10 organizations there. All those organizations are but one, the Law Society of South Africa. If you are going to go to the Gauteng Attorneys Association, very same, and a subdivision of that LSSA. So we are not perturbed by that because everything they're saying in there cannot be backed up by facts. When we look at the facts actually don't agree with what they are writing in there. So they are claiming that the RAF is in disarray. We are saying it's not. For them, yes, they're saying it's a crisis. It's a crisis for them because we have closed the taps at the Road Accident Fund. We have made sure that lawyers don't get what they are not supposed to be getting. They used to get 10.6 billion of the 40-something billion. So it's about 25% of what they're getting from the Road Accident Fund. And we are saying this money must go to the claimant. We have been reducing legal costs. Of course, when we reduce legal costs on our side, it means it was paid to lawyers, and now it's no longer paid to lawyers. Where does that money go? If you look at the trajectory, to show that when we arrived, it was sitting at some 26 billion that was being paid out of the 46 billion that we collected. It was being paid to only to the victims. The rest was going to the lawyers. We have reduced that. We have taken that back to the claimant, and we are saying we are acting in what we do in the best interest of the claimant. So all they are doing is making noise about this, and we are saying bring the objective test on which you claim those things you are claiming.
Now, something that you mentioned before the break was that there are a number of lawyers or attorneys that have not passed on the benefit from the RAF to the intended beneficiaries. What does that number look like?
The ones we know.
Yes, the ones
absolutely. Every day we find a lot of people coming to us and claiming that. They will claim as lawyers that no, it's the minority of us. And the question you should ask them is, what did you do with them? Most of them are still practicing today. For years and years and years, they've been siphoning money from claimants themselves. And they've been taking money and using RAF as a piggy bank for themselves. And no one is asking them that question. What are you doing with the people that you claim? They will tell you that, no, there are few rotten apples in a bag. It's not true. It looks like the majority of them actually.
So who safeguards the interests of the individual who's coming to the Road Accident Fund? How do you ensure integrity in your own establishment to ensure that the rights of the South African who's been involved in an accident are protected?
Simplify the process. When you arrive at the Road Accident Fund today, you would actually need an actuary because the determination of what your loss of earnings would not be made until the actuary actually does the work. Who does that? How do you have a social benefit fund that expects someone to start with an actuary before arriving at our door? It is simplifying these processes, which is why we are trying to simplify it to say, let it be a defined scheme where everybody else can come in and be able to claim and know how much it is. If it's an amputated leg, you must know how much it is.
So explain the process for me. An individual is involved in an accident. They're in a hospital for 6 weeks. For argument's sake, they lose a limb. Right. They come to the RAF to make a claim. What is that process until the claim is paid out, if it is going to be paid out?
The process as it is starts by saying we need to know how much the loss is worth, right? How it has impacted your life. Okay, we pay what is called loss of earnings. If that has infected on your earnings, and then you would pay what is called general damages, so-called sorry money. We don't even know how it's calculated because you can say 2 million, I can say 1.5, and that's where the issue is. And we must, within 120 days, give you an offer. What usually happens with these lawyers is that they don't even bring enough information for us to be able to make an offer. If in 120 days we don't make an offer, then you can actually issue summons against us. Once you issue summons, then that is taken to court, then the determination will be made in court and we'll be able to pay you. If we don't have to, if we have all the information, we're able to make you an offer, you accept an offer as reasonable, you then sign it, we then actually are able to pay you within 180 days.
So, let's talk two issues. One, does the RAF cover foreign drivers within the borders of South Africa, firstly?
Absolutely, it does, for as long as we know that the accident happened in South Africa during that time. What you need to do is that just give us a passport that is stamped, we look at it, we know that. That is what the new bill is saying. The new bill is saying, well, when you come to South Africa, come with your own insurance. That's what the new bill is saying. But currently, as we speak, as a foreigner, you are allowed to claim. May I add this? The biggest beneficiary of the road accident fund in South Africa, as we know today, is a Swiss national that has been paid 519 million rands. For us, it's something that was not foreseen and something that South Africans must never agree to. Because the aim of the social benefit scheme was to benefit South Africans. That you have got the biggest beneficiary being a foreign a national. It's something else. When you go to their own country, for instance, they say, before you enter, make sure you insure yourself. And we are saying they must do the same coming here.
So was this a fair settlement? I mean, I have to ask, you talked about earning potential of an individual. Yes. That's one of the elements that you look at.
Yes.
Now, an individual that is paid 519 million, right?
Yes.
I mean, that's a massive sum.
It was actually through a settlement that is 519. In fact, that person had been claiming something to the tune of about 4 billion rands. And I'm saying, where you sit as a person, this system is not equitable in the sense that the poor is paid the lowest, the rich is paid the highest. For instance, if I get injured, my helper gets injured, the same injuries, my loss of earnings is higher than that of my helper, then the helper gets lower amount and I get higher. So how do you get a system where it's a regressive form of taxation in South Africa and you say this must be fine? We are saying we must change that. We say it must be the same for everybody. If you are injured, like I'm injured and my helper is injured, we must get equal amount because we are paying equal amounts of the fuel levy.
So today is the final day where individuals have been invited to make submissions. What sort of reactions have you had?
Today is a Sunday. Obviously, this thing will fall to tomorrow. That's what we want to clarify to South Africans, that they must do that. And we are saying they must come and give us their experiences. We are really not interested in how lawyers feel. We are interested in how claimants feel and how they want to access the scheme. Because that is for them. South Africans must come out and claim their space. They are not going to allow medical aids. They are not going to allow lawyers to come and take what was supposed to be theirs. And we are saying the more kitty they reduce, the less is going to the claimant. And we are saying claimants must come out in numbers and make their voice be heard.
What sort of response have you gotten? Because
South Africans are very happy, by the way. South Africans are very happy with the changes.
Well, let me just finish my question. It also speaks to the numbers of those that have turned up.
Yeah.
Because those whose cases have already been dealt with are unlikely to come back and say to you, we weren't happy with this process. Those that are in the queue, for instance, for whatever reason, may not have the ability to come forth and lay claims. Have you had a huge response before you tell us what the general sentiment has been?
Yes, we have got people are interested in how the road accident fund works, and of course there has been a big interest in what we are doing there and the changes that we are bringing.
So, you were talking to me about how people are happy and excited.
People are happy and excited.
What aspects of this people are actually leading to that excitement?
Yeah, people are happy and excited that foreigners are not going to be included. They go to Mozambique, they are going to be told pay insurance. They say, well, the same has happened to the Mozambicans coming to South Africa. So that's what they're happy with. People are happy with the fact that people are going to be paid installment. They've watched the thing called I Blew It. They've seen people blowing money and they're saying it makes sense what you are saying there. And they are saying that we want to a system that is equitable, that does not favor the rich over the poor, and therefore we are happy with what you are doing. It's only lawyers that are going to complain about these things. People that are going to come on air and tell you that, no, the vehicle damage is going to be paid for. People that don't even understand what the RAF is about. Of course, medical aids are unhappy because they used to come to claim money that they're not supposed to and they're entitled to. So there would be others that are complaining, but in the main, claimants are very happy.
Now, I want to go back to this issue and the recent judgment from the Mpumalanga High Court, where you've been ordered and the RAF board to personally cover the legal costs of 2 cases due to the firing of a panel of attorneys. What's your response to this judgment, and how do you plan on addressing the financial burden that it imposes on you?
My response is that I'm unperturbed by that judgment because I've got leave to appeal that judgment. The Constitutional Court, that's not recent, by the way. People keep on saying recent. Recent is as March. March is long ago, 7 months. The latest judgments that we got...
So have you appealed?
Of course I've appealed, and I've got leave to appeal. I've got leave to appeal from the Supreme Court of Appeal on that. I'm very glad that we will get over that. But the issue is the Constitutional Court judgment of Mabunda versus the RAF that we are talking about, the legal panel, we won that case. So people are not talking about it, they're talking about another case. And we are saying very clearly we did this, and it is very clear from our financials that we did very well. We have reduced the legal costs by more than 60%, and we have taken that money and given to the claimant. And we're happy doing that.
So Collins, you've been in charge of the institution as Chief Executive Officer for, I think, 3 years, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 3 years full-time. Another year it's 4 years. Actually.
So let's talk about your success over those 3 years. What have you been able to implement? I know those numbers have come down significantly of the claims that have been outstanding. And certainly, what does the future hold for the RAF?
The RAF is doing very well. I think the biggest thing that we have done, we have managed to take away the need for go in between us, which are your lawyers. We have reduced the amount of money that is going to there. We have now introduced this thing of making RAF accessible to our people. We are now opening a center in Midrand. We've opened it in July, where we've got a 300-seat call center where people can call in 087 820 1111. Anyone can call that number. Find out how far your claim is. Don't listen to the lawyer. Even if the lawyer tells you that how far your claim is, please ask RAF. RAF will tell you where your claim is. So that's what we're interested in. We're interested in bringing to the fore, making it easier for people to be able to claim. We've introduced what we call the RAF Form 1, where people must give us all the information so that in 120 days, and that's what the AG said, they are quite excited about our 120-day target, that we have reached our target by 85%. So it tells you that the RAF is doing well. The RAF is interested in the claimant, and we are actually saying, that's why we are saying this year is the year of the claimant. We want to empower the claimant to make decisions. If they want to go to a lawyer, still fine. But they must know what it means to go to a lawyer, and they must be able to come to the RAF if they don't have to use a lawyer at all.
Collins, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for coming on to the show.
Thank you.
That was the RAF CEO, Collins at Letsoalo, speaking to us about the RAF and